I'm a YouTuber. Hey guys, this is the usual broken Corvette. We're getting ready to pull the drivetrain. So it's been kind of a long story with this car. Originally it started life with the standard LS6 in it, and that's how it was when I got it. But it had a massive cam in it, and the shop that installed that cam did not put lifters in it. So it was on the stock lifters. As you can imagine, it didn't last very long. Blew the engine about a month after I got it. So we built a stroker LS3 for it. 416 cubic inches, LS3, threw it in the car. That lasts about 4 or 5 years. About a year ago, I crashed the car. And, well, we pulled the engine out, and that's when I found a crack in the sleeve. So as a result, we threw this old LS6 that I had as a spare into the car, and we ran the entire year like that. So now that I finished the year with this LS6 in it, no issues with the car, it's just that it's time for more power. So we have the 468 that we're building out of that old LS3 stroker that I blew up, and it's going to go into the car. It's about ready. So now I have to pull everything out and get the car ready for the new engine. Okay. We got the front up. Time to raise the rear. Don't try this at home, kids. Alright. Nice, nothing sketchy here. Just remember, kids, safety first.
Safety first.
So the first thing you have to do is pull the exhaust system out of the car. So the headers, the X-pipe, and the mufflers. Then the next thing I do is drain the fluids from the vehicle. I was having some issues where the radiator drain petcock was stripped out, and we ended up just having to open the hose. The interior has to come apart in order to remove the shifter, because the shifter has to be off of the torque tube in order to drop the assembly. Okay, so now we're pointing the front of the car downwards in order to get the rear angled up a little. This gives us the room that we need in order to get the transmission and diff with the torque tube all out as one unit.
Video evidence for the insurance company. OSHA. No, we got less than 5 employees. We're good.
Excellent.
Alright, you ready?
Okay, so now that all of the bolts holding the torque tube to the engine are undone, we can slowly lower the rear of the whole assembly, but this will also tilt the engine backwards towards the cowl. So we have to make sure that we don't hit anything and that nothing is binding up. So this is just a slow process, especially when it's on jack stands. And you can see that I just hold the torque tube while we have the jack in the back lowering the whole assembly. And then once it's out, you just kind of stick it on something that rolls and move it. So with everything behind the engine removed, we can now work at removing the engine, which involves pulling the intake and disconnecting the power steering system. So you see me trying many times to get in there. It's an insanely tight spot. And once we finally get those lines up top undone, I'll crawl underneath and I start undoing the wiring harnesses. While I'm doing that, I've got Cole and Nate undoing everything they can up top so that we can get the lift plate onto the engine to pull it out. At this point, we pull the hood just to give us a little extra room, since we'll have to do that anyway to get the engine out. And one of the things you don't really see here is that we're getting underneath so that we can loosen the front subframe, and you see the engine kind of going up and down, and that's we're lowering the subframe a bit so that the front balancer will clear the steering rack. And here I am trying to connect the swivel thing, realizing that's not going to work, so we're just using a lift plate. And you see us here constantly working on the right side there. It's because we're trying to get the AC compressor off without having to open the lines. So it's one of those things that's a really tight fit, and you have to wiggle it as you pull the engine out. So here we are with everything out of the car, recreating a photo that I took the first time I pulled this drivetrain back in 2015. So that's it for this video. Once I get the 468 back, then I can work on putting it into the car and bringing the car back to life. But until then, she sits and